Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Good, good. I asked Joe to make sure he joined us as well. I think he's going to be there.
All right.
Hello, Senator Tony Wang.
Hi, Cindy. Merry Christmas.
Same. I don't see Joe yet.
So it looks like we're starting to stabilize as far as the number of folks that we have. Unless I missed it, Mark didn't change our time, so I'm assuming that we have until 4:45. Did anyone hear differently?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Great. So as was stated, the questions are up in the chat, which I think, you know, as Cindy and I have thought about it, those we can use as kind of to frame the discussion. But I think really interested in not in hearing what I'd say we've all heard in prior discussions, whether it be in this forum or any others, as far as the overall challenges relative to workforce right now. But what are some of the strategies that those on the call have found to be successful in application? And you know, as Kelly mentioned on the way out, right, the regional sector partnerships, I think, right, we have the advantage in this breakout, right, that manufacturing has benefited certainly in the Southeast region from regional sector partnerships for several years, and have seen some gains in the ones that have been stood up across the state. So I feel pretty fortunate as we go into this discussion this afternoon. So what would that you know, it was you know, from the attraction of non-traditional talent. Does anyone want to kick us off with comments on what they've seen as either a success or a challenge that collectively probably pertains to a lot of us that we should think about working on together?
Well, I can also just join in on some of the things that have been, and thank you, Joe, for participating in this one. You know, again, this is about initiatives and what kind of partnerships we need to bring people in. We all know we have issues hiring. But what I asked Joe to join us is because we're much smaller. Andrew and I were talking last night, sort of laughing at he needs to hire 4,000 people a year and I have to hire 20. So it's a very different model. So I really speak more for the smaller organizations that are looking to hire, you know, 10, 20, 30 a year. But what we did is we formed a partnership with Joe at Workplace that has been very successful for us. And so for smaller organizations that kind of want to set up something, Joe, I thought you could maybe talk a little bit about what we did with you to get that kind of off the ground and so successful for us.
Yeah, well, I think what you did is that you gave it a chance. There's been an apprenticeship program for 100 years, who knows? But I think most people associated it with building trades. But it's not. It can cover a whole bunch of different kinds of occupations. We went to Bigelow, and it was a program. We had won a federal grant, a federal competitive grant, to use the apprenticeship program for young people in manufacturing. And Bigelow had job openings, and they were having some difficulty finding qualified people. So it was an industry willing to make an investment in the future. It takes time from when you first hire someone and you bring them into the apprenticeship program to where they're going to be fully fledged and they're going to receive the license and things of that sort. It's bearing with that individual for some time, but looking for a quality workforce really, you know, years ahead. And I will tell you, it started out a number of years ago where, you know, we certainly did have progress, but at the same token, it took time for people to build up, you know, sort of support and confidence in it. And I think we've reached it. And one thing I'm pleased to tell you is that the number of inquiries and applicants for the apprenticeship programs we have is surging. And initially, back a few years ago, we had a beg industry. We had to do everything for them in order to get them to give somebody a chance. I think the tightness of the labor force is really opening up the realm here to any kind of an option that has a viable chance. We have about 185 young people that we have brought into the program. And really the majority are under the age of 24, but 21 have already entered the registered apprenticeship program. The others are doing really the prep work on it. So it's moving fast. And again, just to repeat, I think the tightness of the market is causing more and more businesses to come forward and say, what do we need to do to be part of it? And so we're ready at the workplace. Anybody that needs that kind of assistance or help, just give us a buzz.
Thank you for that perspective, Joe. And for those that didn't see it, that as Joe was talking and Cindy made talked about the conversation we had last evening, Todd Birch made the point, I think, pretty effectively, that even though the scales are different, right, the foundation of apprenticeship is still there, right, and strong working relationships, and that model can scale. And what I would also say is that, Joe, in keeping with the points that you made, what we've seen from those partnerships here using the EWIB, our local workforce board, is that these partnerships are pretty powerful across a range of businesses. To be, the proverbial rising tide lifts all boats as far as developing common programs and curricula that will benefit all members of the partnership under the RSP. And this is a model that we've had since the 2016 timeframe that has benefited a lot of manufacturers in the surrounding region. So we absolutely subscribe and see the results that you're describing. So thank you for sharing that.
Other than Mark had suggested that if anyone wants to share, is what are some of the things that people are doing, not just apprenticeships, which are hugely important, but also, you're looking at different start times, flex times, job sharing, off shifts. Like, if people can just share some of the things that they're doing, even if you think it's standard, maybe it's not, some of the creative ways that you're doing to try to make your organization more open to be able to include as many individuals as possible.
I can just share a little bit on.
Thanks, Kathy.
On a couple of those areas. So we have. We don't have actual shifts. What we have is really flexible start times for people. And so we've got a number of dads who start at 5:30 in the morning because they want to be home for their kids getting off the bus. And some of that is because some of the moms work on the later shifts or night shifts. And so the dads are covering during the day. And I've got young people who just can't get out of bed. And so the agreements that we've come to are, pick a time. Just as long as you pick a time and you're there, 10 minutes before your shift starts and you're consistent, we can live with that. So they come in at 9. And then there's other people that are, back to the typical, 8 to 5. And so we've been, and this has been for a while now, that we were flexible with the dads coming in really early. And now with the young people, that's a newer thing, is starting later and working later. But, we're getting the work done and everything is covered. And I'm very interested in Marsha LaFemina's ideas that she's doing at her company for moms, where she's offering, shifts that match exactly the kids' hours that they're in school. So that's another direction we can go. And then on the other topic that we were talking about, as far as getting people who have barriers to entry into the workforce, Joe, I'm afraid to say how many years I've worked with Joe. It's a good 20 for sure. And yeah, more, right? And so over the years, we've worked with Joe on developing special customized programs. At Housatonic, the original, before the Advanced Manufacturing Center, we worked with Joe and with Housatonic on creating curriculum for manufacturers for GD&T and shop math and blueprint reading and things like that. And then they worked with the funding, and some of that was incumbent worker and some of that was new employees that were working towards apprenticeships. And then I had one guy that I hired, but he was homeless and he had no ID. And what people don't realize is that a lot of people who kind of fall off the grid because they can't afford the insurance on the car. So then they end up getting a ticket, and then the ticket ends up to, a bench warrant. And then that becomes, somebody getting incarcerated for something as simple as they couldn't afford something for DMV. And then they get out and then they just don't keep up with anything. And he had no documentation whatsoever. And I'm telling you, you try and get a driver's license or anything so that you can go to college when you don't have any, you're couch surfing, you don't have an address where mail is going to. And Joe's people, I probably spent 80 hours on this, and Joe's people helped me through every step of the way. Broke a lot of rules. Sorry, Joe, but we did. But we got this guy into the program and through the program. And he actually is now working, instead of for me, he's working for a sculptor doing CNC machining for big sculptures. But he's got a job, and he's got a driver's license and he's paying taxes. So that's kind of support and partnership that I think, historically has added the most value, certainly for me as a manufacturer.
I know, Tony, you had something you wanted to say. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. I think if the focus is attracting and retaining talent in some of the non-traditional talent roles, I think one of the things that I love to hear from other people, other organizations, is what are they doing on childcare? Childcare is a huge factor affecting a lot of people who may stay home instead of going to work. Two other areas is, are we looking at retraining some middle-aged transitional workers from white collar to manufacturing? Would that mean that, do we have an accelerated apprenticeship program that people can transition their skills, particularly our middle-aged transitional workers? And I think the third is retraining our veterans, particularly our recent Gulf War veterans that had such intensive training, but have found that as they come back into the mainstream marketplace, their skills need some adaptation. And I know the workplace, we're sounding workplaces tremendous work, and Joe's been great, and they have done some veterans retraining, but that's another area of readily available non-traditional talent. But I love to get people's feedback on those three particular areas of non-traditional talent.
I'll just say real quickly that there definitely are white collar people who are kind of transitioning to something new in the manufacturing program at Housatonic. I've met them, so that is definitely happening.
I'd also ask Courtney Murphy, you want to give a little perspective relative to veterans in particular?
She's on mute. Courtney, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of transferable skills, and especially for anyone associated with the shipbuilding industry, you know, there's a mission that closely aligns to the veterans, especially. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think a lot of opportunity as well. And one of the programs that we put into place is our boat program, so the Boat for Vets, which is trying to get some exposure to the veteran population around careers that exist for them and helping them transition into the workforce. So I think, yeah, it's definitely a population that, you know, we want to stay in Connecticut when they return or to relocate to Connecticut. And I think some of the other topics around that have already been talked about are all those support services that need to be here for them to want to stay. So it's the population we need. So I think the more we can do as a group, the better. I don't know if I hit on what you were looking for, Andrew.
I think you started to give some texture to it. Thank you. I appreciate that, Courtney.
I mean, I can't say we have any special programs for vets, but we have a very successful population of veterans that, you know, is very exciting for us at Bigelow. I don't know if we've done anything specifically to reach out, but I do know we have a very solid, very, very, very positive population. I know one of the other things, and it doesn't really answer your question, Tony, that we've been doing is, because you talked about the older population and retraining, our retirees, when they retire, we tell them they can come back at any time they want. So they can actually come back, you know, they just have to let us know. They work through a temp agency, I believe. I don't know all the details on it, but if they want to work 2 days a week, 2 days a month, certain number of hours, that's been exceedingly successful for us because a lot of the retirees, especially in the manufacturing areas where I'm focused, they don't want to get up anymore at 5:30 in the morning and show up. Unlike Kathy, those dads that are there 5:30 after, you know, 30 years are like, no more 5:30, but, you know, so they'll work from 9 to 3, and they're incredibly valuable for training, morale, you know, keeping productivity at a much higher level. So that's been an interesting thing, is letting retirees come back pretty much in an open schedule.
And I found that retirees from feedback offer great mentoring.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
sorely lacking in not only technical expertise, but expectations and how they can manage career building, but also about life. I think we're missing a lot of that. And I'm fearful that we're having an even greater potential of exodus of those kind of manufacturing and apprentice skills going away. And I think we need to nurture that and develop that kind of connection. We can't lose them all because they serve incredible mentoring roles.
Mhm.
Thank you. Karen, you've got your hand up. Would you like to
I just a
That's great,
couple
too.
comments. Again, I'm from with the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities. And I did want to say that at all of our community colleges, we have a Veterans Oasis that basically provides wraparound services specifically for veterans. And with our manufacturing programs, we've actually, you know, gone to the Oasis, done some presentations, try to make them aware of the different careers that they might be able to pursue in manufacturing. I actually run a $7.5 million National Science Foundation center that is focused on manufacturing. And one of the things we've certainly identified is that veterans come already with these really transferable skills where they can hit the ground running, specifically in the technology and engineering area. So it's why not capitalize on that. I also wanted to mention, and this is kind of an aside, but through that initiative, we also work with an initiative called Deaf Tech that addresses the fact that a lot of veterans have they come back with hearing loss. You know, and that's very, very common. So there's some strategies that we're looking at for incorporating into our curriculum to ensure that, again, that's a potential disability that could maybe prevent them from being successful in our manufacturing programs. And then with veterans, the retirees, we really struggle in higher ed to get instructors. You know, again, like I know in the industry part of the house, you guys are looking for people to, employ for the manufacturing careers. Well, we also have the challenge of trying to get professors, instructors. So we did reach out to AARP, and it might be something we want to actually go a little bit more in depth to help us with trying to recruit potential retirees. AARP too, I think only have to be 50, right? And I think when I first got the card, I was like, oh my God, this is a mistake. Join AARP. I went, I'm not old, but the reality is you can be a member, I think, at 50 years old. But where I just think it might be an organization we might want to circle back to for, both getting individuals to consider maybe want to going into a new career, whether it's getting into the workforce, or from my perspective, also helping us with potentially coming back and teaching, doing some part-time instruction.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Karen. Tracy Nixon Moore, I think you were next.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Because I was having trouble with my headset. So a couple things I want to add. I am employed at Electric Boat and wanted to just add to some of what Courtney shared. With our proximity to the sub base, so we have started work with transitioning submariners that allow us an opportunity to help them see transferable skills and actually move, rather quickly in us and the work that we do to build submarines. They have been our most immediate customer, and now with the opportunity to leverage that skill, knowledge, and actually passion for what it is that we do. Another thing that would be the Senator asked about childcare. Well, we've participated in some councils to explore what our opportunities are, especially since there are some childcare deserts where we are in Eastern Connecticut. There are some things that we do offer our employees, for emergency childcare support. And it does alleviate employee concerns when things happen and they need to take advantage of having care for a child or even an elderly adult. And we started doing this work or offering this benefit during COVID, but have continued it now that we're kind of coming out the other side of our collective experience with COVID. So those are a couple of things that I would say have been pretty powerful. I don't want to call them experiments, but actual approaches that, we continue to build upon. Another area that we leverage are the veterans that we hire, because they're the people that are already here. They can speak to their experience at Electric Boat. And so they help with our recruiting team, and they're out there talking about what kinds of roles would be available, actually helping our ex-military understand how their skills might translate to a job. And we do that, through the recruiting arm, but we also have employee resource groups. And one of them is our employee resource group dedicated to our veterans from all arms of the military. And they have been an invaluable tool in our recruiting efforts in the last couple of years.
Thank you, Tracy. And one thing I'd just like to point out for those that are not familiar with the emergency backup care program that Tracy talked about, we actually do that through, it's a national service provider that just happens to be a Connecticut-based business, where it's essentially a voucher system that we give our employees so many vouchers per year. And as Tracy said, that they're available for whether that's to take the child to a daycare center that isn't their normal daycare, or to pay a friend or family member to come in and take care of the child for the day. And it's very affordable. If you look at it, it is far less than whatever that day's worth of lost capacity is for that person not being able to come to work. So it's really been a win-win for us and our employees, and something that's very scalable and affordable to provide as a benefit.
And Angie, did you say that had a specific name, the program that you guys are using, Tracy? Did it have a name that you guys in this particular emergency voucher program? Or is it just something you offer your employees?
Emergency backup care. I'll get the name of the vendor. It,
Yeah.
of course, has.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Tracy, if you could
Great.
look that up and post it in the chat, please, that would be great.
Thank you, Trace, very much. That's great.
All right, John, I think John Elliott, you were next.
Thank you. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at UConn, and I'm sort of intrigued because over the course of our several years together, the richness of opportunity and programming has multiplied, and it's really remarkable what we're all doing together. And I wanted to just mention 3 quick things that we're doing at UConn. We just recently launched a program called FLIP, Financial Literacy Innovation Program. And what we do is partner with 5 high schools in Hartford to bring some of their students to UConn for Saturdays for our upper level undergraduate students to work with them to sort of think about how they should think about their future. And what we want is for them to be more conscious and more focused on opportunity, and perhaps to think about various internship opportunities, various trades opportunities. Obviously, if they want to think about a program at a 4-year university, we're happy to have that conversation, but that's not the purpose of what we're doing. And we had a very good year last year, and many people have chosen to sign back up. The high schools want to keep doing it. So I want to just emphasize that among all of us, we're trying to cover the waterfront and work with people from early days to later days, veterans and so forth. The second thing I would just emphasize is from a manufacturing perspective, many of you may know that we have a management and engineering for manufacturing program that is really a partnership between engineering and business. And what's interesting about it to me is that the numbers have just grown consistently over the last 5 years, so that students are engaged. They think of this as a career path that matters. And not surprisingly, they're getting great jobs, they're getting full employment opportunities, and they're getting paid well when they go through the program. And my question to some of you would be, we're talking with the engineering school about whether or not there should be a focus on manufacturing at the graduate level for potential students, engineering degree holders who want to expand their potential as a manufacturing manager, business students who want to pick up the engineering that they need to be a more effective manufacturing leader. And much of our conversation has been about helping entry-level people come into the programs and be effective. But is there a place and a need for a next level of education and development? I would just welcome your thoughts and feedback on that.
Oh my God, I could go on for that forever. I starting with nobody's killed more manufacturers than Harvard MBAs.
Right, we don't want to do that. That's not our goal.
Exactly. I mean, it's all about, long-term growth and stability and sustainability and everything else. But yeah, and the other problem that we have with engineers is that they need to get more hands-on and more business experience so that they're thinking about engineering in the context of the real world that the product is used in. So, yeah.
Well, Kathy, I have to share with you that our new president, Radinka Merrick, is very conscious of the notion of emotional intelligence, and it augments IQ. And our engineers are deep on IQ, but sometimes weaker on emotional intelligence. And so we want to bring them along. So I take your point. Thank you.
Radinka's got both of those. She's brilliant.
Yes.
I'd offer that from our perspective that we talk a lot about, getting people into the trades, but without a strong leadership component, especially in a people-intensive business, it's a lost cause. You need both, right? You have to have both. Kathy, I think you said it well, but also giving engineers that taste of manufacturing. I think will also help provide a career pathway, right? Because you have some that show up and, want to wear chinos and sit behind a desk and do, just hardcore engineering. You have others that say, hey, I want a pair of boots and a flannel shirt, right? And want to go and live live on the floor, and providing that background, I would view as essential, that roundedness, because if not, you have to train it into them with someone that really comes with a professional skill set out of the gate. It would be good to have that rounding in general, and that practical hands-on experience.
It's actually done a lot in Europe, and just for the other manufacturers on the call, they do also have their senior design projects, and they put together teams, and you can pick a project that's a whole in a business context. So I did one with them on packaging for and branding, but also protecting some fragile products that we make, and they crushed it. You can tap into that. That's a resource and great experience for them for working on real world problems.
Thank you for that partnership.
If I can make one point, Andrew. Joe.
Please.
I think one of the most important things that a manufacturer can do from their community is to be a part of these regional groups that have been organized here in Connecticut. I think Kelly said there were 10 regional partnerships that are now functioning. I cannot tell you the transformation that occurred in southwestern Connecticut from the first meeting we had a year ago to where it was this week. I mean, probably 55 or 60 manufacturers that are now deeply involved with the community college, local education system. They're designing programs, but confidence is strong. There were a lot of folks that I think were skeptical about this initially, but I think that their performance in the last year has certainly proven that they're a great asset to our community, and it's not a waste of time. You will see the benefit immediately, and you will benefit from it. I think the good senator made comments about that earlier too, and he's right on target.
Thank you for that, Joe. I think you're right on, because if I bring the points you just made back to some of the other discussions that we had earlier with the panelists in the meetings, and the points that Kelly Valerie's made, I think in a lot of cases, by the time you get to high school, if not middle school, as far as getting a level of excitement about manufacturing as a career path and a viable path, that these are great jobs that not everyone needs a 4-year degree. I think the earlier that we can stimulate that interest, and I'm talking as early as elementary school, right? And these partnerships allow a conduit to go do that in an effective manner within the school systems, so that you can rotate the duty. I think there is tremendous benefit there. And I'll just say personally, I got home last night, and my 10-year-old daughter met me at the door and said, "Hey, Dad, you have no idea what we did at school today." And I actually did, because someone at Electric Boat had already sent me the pictures, but they'd gone to school and brought the welding simulators and had the kids in welding hoods. And for them, it was like a video game, but it was an experience on understanding what's a hands-on in the trade look like at an early age. That continuous light touch, I think, throughout the school experience that these partnerships can provide is tremendous.
Cool. Very cool.
Right. Others that have something that we haven't touched on yet, or a different direction. I'm guessing that we're going to get the hook from Mark any minute now, right? But we have a little bit of time left.
No, I know we talk a lot about what we need to do, and there's so much we need to do to make sure our doors are open for as many people as possible, but we don't also get to talk about what does that look like to keep them in the door, right? That's also a whole another conversation, and a rich one at that, because that's a very specific requirement as well. So I'm hoping that one time we can also talk about what are the tactics that we need to do and to think about in order to make it an environment that people want to stay. We worked so hard to get them there. Now you want to keep them, right? We talked a little bit about that last night.
If I can get 30 seconds,
Exactly.
if I can get 30 seconds before Mark puts the hook out. The issue of dealing with the aging population. Connecticut's the 6th oldest state, average age in the entire nation.
Oof.
But it's a population, given the shortage, I mean, we're gonna have a serious period of at least a decade of a serious shortage of workers. We can't let people go. If we can, if possible, to retain their talent, we have to do all that we can to be sure we can make them more productive. We can do whatever we have to do, but the shortage is going to be so severe that really no one should be just assumed to be left out.
Agreed. Thank you for that,
I
Joe.
think Tony
Appreciate it.
touched on that when we were talking before, Senator Wayne.
Okay, so we have 52 seconds. Any final thoughts? Great. I appreciate that, Joe. Great closing comments. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. I really appreciate it. And I feel like we actually surfaced some new content, right? Not just talking about the challenges of recruiting, but talking about some of the potential solutions. So thank you for your active participation and engagement. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.